Oh, this seems like a stupid idea. Oh. Oh. Okay, that was stupid. Oh. Oh. Okay, not gonna do that. Ow. Oh, that was stupid. What's up, YouTube? Jason here with Byte My Bits, and I built a new computer, a workstation computer built mainly to run Premiere Pro, and I want to share that build with you today. So I bought some new parts, used a few old parts, so maybe technically I can say that I just upgraded what I had instead of built a whole new one. I pretty much built a whole new one though. So jumping right into what I purchased for this upgrade of mine, let's start with the motherboard. For that, I got the Asus ROG Rampage VI Extreme eATX X299 motherboard. For the CPU, I went with the Core i9-7940X. This is the one with 14 cores, 28 threads, running at 3.1 gigahertz. For cooling, I decided to go with the Corsair H150i Pro all-in-one cooler. This gives me most of the benefit of having water in my system without any of the headaches. So I love all-in-one coolers. And for the RAM, I did kind of cheap out a little bit. I know that I could have vomited RGB all up in my case if I wanted to, but I didn't feel like spending the premium price that Corsair charges for their Trident RGB whatever RAM that they sell. So instead, I went with Corsair Dominator Platinum Series, 128 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 RAM. For my storage, I do have that 970 Pro that you guys might already know about. Try to put it in my X99 build, much to my disappointment, it was not capable of running at full speeds. Now, not so much a problem. I added in an extra 1 terabyte Samsung Evo drive that's just a standard SATA SSD that I'm going to use for editing videos off of. I also still have a 250 gigabyte version of the same drive that I use for pretty much random stuff, primarily downloads and other caching stuff. I carried over my EVGA 1080 Ti from my old build. And for miscellaneous things in the case, I do have an SFP network interface card that I use for direct communication to my server. This is a 10 gig card that uses the SFP connection. Yes, the motherboard that I got does have a 10 gigabit NIC already installed, but it is an RJ45 connection, something I might utilize in the future, but for right now, I'm sticking with what already works, and then I'll approach the rest later. And then I have two Western Digital 8 terabyte RED drives that run in RAID 1. This is for pretty much storage of vital stuff that I just don't want to lose. And then wrapping this all together is the Lian Li PC V3000 full tower computer case. I chose this because it has a simplistic look to it, but just enough to show off what you got. Now, while I ramble on about this build, I will showcase some of the build footage that I have. Just keep in mind that although I did get some build footage, I probably didn't get as much as I should have. I was actually just a little too eager to get this build done because I hate my main computer being down, and it was down when I was doing this. So I was in a hurry. Either way, let's start off by talking about water cooling. Now, I went with the H50i Pro to give me an all-in-one water cooling solution. And considering this motherboard and this case combo, I feel like I'm almost insulting it by not putting in a full-blown water cooling system. I'm talking with reservoir, custom tubing, the whole 9 yards. I'm insulting this build by not filling it with a complete water-cooled system. I mean, this case has ample room to put anything I want into it, including large radiators at the bottom, at the top, and of course a large space to the right of the motherboard to put in a reservoir. And while I know this is basically an insult to this build to not be fully water-cooled, I do have to say that I did it on purpose. The first reason, of course, being cost. I mean, going with a full-blown water build would just cost way more money. And while I don't have exact numbers, I know it's probably going to be at least another $1,000 at minimum. Because I know that if I did the build, I would probably go a little bit all out and try to get all the bells and whistles and make it look as nice as humanly possible. The second reason is time. Since this is a main workstation for me, I have parts in there that are vital to either my new or my old computer running. I just can't deal with my computer being down for more than a few hours. It's an obsession of mine, and maybe in the future, if I have a backup system that I can use while I'm building this out, that would be okay, but but right now I don't want my main computer to be down very long. And the third reason is really just the hassle, the problems, the maintenance, anything that might come up from a water-cooled system. Now, to the experts, somebody like Jay's 2 cents who could build a water-cooled computer in their sleep, they probably don't have very much hassle. They could probably build it pretty quick, and they probably don't have any problems with it. He knows exactly when to do maintenance on it, and he knows exactly how to do maintenance on it, and well, pretty much he's a water cooling expert. That's all fine and great, but since I have actually not built a fully water-cooled system, that would all be new to me. And while I can use the internet for research, I'm sure there are going to be things that I do wrong. Granted, I probably will make sure to seal off the system before I put water in it, unlike Kyle did, but still, there will be problems, and I really just don't want to deal with those. So moving past that, my main Achilles heel on any build is cable management. I think I do a decent job when it comes to cable management, but it might be called a stretch to actually say decent. With this particular build using the H150i, the all-in-one water cooler, a lot of cables come off of the main unit that's attached to where the processor is. So I have this string of, somewhat short cables coming from the middle of the motherboard that I have to find something to do with. Granted, this is only one small issue, and I was able to take care of them in a decent way. I just don't like it, and if I were to go with a full-blown water-cooled system, I would not have this problem. But still, it is what it is. But on top of that, there are a lot of cables, obviously for any computer build, and the power supply that I'm using, the 1000 watt EVGA power supply, some of the cables are just long enough to run where they need to run. Not using that as an excuse, it's just a fact. Sometimes I can only run cables a certain way. If I really wanted to get into this, I probably could look at some custom sleeved, custom length cables that go with this power supply. But for right now, it's up and running. I think it looks pretty decent. And to be honest, I'm not going to be looking in the back of the computer very often at all. So not wanting to incur the cost of custom cables, I think I'm good with what I have. Maybe in the future, if I decide to water cool this, which I highly doubt it, I might look into some custom cables. But for now, it is what it is. And then let's talk about RGB. I have to admit my guilty pleasure. I love RGB. I know, it's kind of dumb, but it is what it is. Now, I didn't necessarily want to go full-on unicorn rainbow puke all over this build, but I did want some RGB to it. So with the Corsair H150i, the main pump base that connects to the CPU, that of course is RGB. The Rampage VI Extreme motherboard has RGB put all around the board. And the Lee & full tower case that I got also has a RGB strip in the front. But while I was building, I was looking at some of these extra RGB connector points on the motherboard, and I just remembered I actually had some RGB strips laying around that I ordered off of eBay a long time ago that I had no use for. Primarily because I ordered them and they didn't come with a controller, so I had nothing to use them for. So as a complete afterthought, I decided, hey, well, why not try to RGB it up just a little bit more and wrap RGB strips around the front of the case. I quickly found out, one, that the RGB strip does not stick very well, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna come downstairs and find an RGB thing just like laying at the bottom of my case. And then two, it's really just not that good of a kit. It's hard to bend and wrap around angles, and if I really want to go with RGB, I'm probably going to have to find a different solution. For now, it made for a good video, made for good B-roll. You can see it in some of the B-roll shots, but it is what it is. I will probably replace it. It's a high chance that I'm going to replace that, but it is what it is. But with all that said, this new build runs really quiet. I have the Corsair H150i turned on the extreme setting, so everything runs at top speed, and while I technically can hear it, it's not something that stands out to me. And with that cooler, I was able to get the i9 chip overclocked to 4.4 gigahertz, or at least a little under that. Now this is running at about 1.21, 1.22 volts, and I usually set it idle temps of about 38 to 40 C, with full throttle temps running around 85 to 93. And it's really because of those full load temps that makes me want to back down the overclock right now. However, I will say this, when I ordered all these parts and I was getting everything set up, I was fairly certain that I had some thermal paste left over from my old build. I knew I had it, or at least I thought I had it, but I could not find it anywhere. And I'm not saying that the stock thermal paste that comes with the H150i is terrible. I'm just saying, I don't know if it's great. I thought I had a tube of Arctic Silver somewhere. I just can't find it, don't know where it is. I used it for my X99 build. It worked great for me. And I think that I'm going to order another tube and swap out that thermal paste and see if I can get my temps under control. But hey, maybe it's performing as good as it can, and maybe me swapping out the thermal paste won't do anything at all. Either way, I'm gonna try it. For now, I'm happy with this upgrade. It is a beast of computer and I love everything about it. I will change a few things probably in the future, but for right now, I think I'm good to go. Maybe if I want to vomit a little bit more RGB into it, I can get some of the Corsair RGB fans. Possibly throw in a different style RGB strip in order to light up the inside of the case. And I think I'm going to have to keep an eye on the temperature of my RAM, because I did try to install the cooling that came with the RAM kit, but there was just no way it was going to fit. So if that gets out of control, I might have to find a creative solution to keep the RAM cool. I do plan on creating a follow-up build video to this one that's going to basically cover me swapping out the thermal paste, working with some overclocking, running some benchmarks, just kind of touching base on a lot of the finer points of this build. I just wanted to get this build video created and uploaded because I've been working on it for a long time and I wanted to share what I've been doing. Also, I gotta wait for Newegg to send me some thermal paste. So, if you guys are interested, I will post a PC part picker link in the description down below. There you'll find a detailed list of everything that I put into this new build, along with the grand total price of, spoiler alert, around $6,300. Ouch. But aside from all that, I love the new build. Hopefully you guys liked it too. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about it, definitely post them down below. Thank you for watching and have yourself a good night.